Hello everyone, and thank you for attending today's collections management demonstration. My name is Griffin Swanson from Professional Advantage, and I am the channel product manager for our collection solution. Now basically how today is going to work is we're going to kick it off here with a short PowerPoint. I'm going to highlight what collections management can deliver and really answer the question, what can collections management do for you? So I have a few quick slides here, and then we're going to spend most of our time inside of GP demoing the actual product. Now I do break that demonstration into two different parts once we hop into GP, first highlighting more of your day-to-day collecting activities and centralizing your customer information inside of the collections main window. And then the second part of today's demonstration, we're going to transition over to the automation process of collections. So I will make that transition clear once we get in GP today. Just wanted to briefly mention that before we get started. So let's hop into the demonstration here. Again, going to kick it off with a PowerPoint and then we'll hop into GP. So the first slide here, I like to go over some of the problems customers are seeing today when they're doing their collecting and how collections management would help solve those problems. So the first thing I like to highlight here, there's a lot of decentralized information in the sales and accounts receivable areas inside of GP. One problem we see today is companies just don't have the ability to keep collection history on their customers inside of GP. So they may print off an aged trial balance, they may keep some posted notes, or perhaps have shared an Excel file. But the main problem with that is there's really no way to share those notes, conversations, or history with other users, at least not in GP. So collections management adds value in number one, the collections main window. This is really going to be the command center for the product, and it's great for ad hoc inquiry. You can use the main window for tracking and creating notes, setting up follow-up tasks, and creating actions on invoices such as promises to pay, or maybe it's in dispute. You're also going to be able to access what we call a task window, which is essentially going to be your to-do list for this collections module. Now you also notice collection notes can be created from the main window as well. The notes have historically been the hub of collections management, really the main functionality. They allow your users to create actions, keep history, and notes on customer invoices. You're also going to see these notes act as a follow-up task. And then the second pain point that we see a lot of customers have is there's a lot of inconsistent follow-up, and with that follow-up they're perhaps using a lot of manual communication. So our collection plans here, they allow your users to spend less time searching for customers, spend less time creating emails, and attaching invoices manually. These workflows here, they're essentially a set of actions suggested automatically based on the due date of a customer's invoice. So you guys can actually use the predefined plans that we have set up with the product, or you can define these plans on your own from scratch, tailoring them to your different customer types. You will then process the actions suggested by these plans in similar groups, one by one, or all at one time, and I'm going to show everyone that in today's demonstration. Lastly here, bottom line, collections management is aimed to reduce your bad debt and improve your cash flow. So we have some performance reports that come with the product. We have an accounts receivable summary window. There are some smart lists and some SSRS report templates that come with collections as well. And then we also have some individual collector performance reports built in the product here too. The last thing with collections, it's also going to track your days sales outstanding. So that allows you to track your DSO over time, really measuring your return on investment on this product. And the last two slides here kind of highlight that return on investment of collections and shows you how you can track your DSO. Really, a good statistic to calculate your return on investment is your DSO. That's because your DSO is indicating how much you're selling and how fast you're getting paid. And then that can really indicate how effective your collection process is working. So the example I have here on this slide, just highlighting for simplicity reasons, let's say you're a $36 million company today. That's roughly $3 million a month or $100,000 a day. Let's say you implement collections here using it as a catalyst to decrease your DSO. The example I have here, let's say within the first year of using collections, you've decreased your DSO from 45 days down to 40 days. So simply down by 5 days. That is going to result in another $500,000 inside of your bank account. And in the same light, here's a simple cash benefit analysis, which really just gives you a better idea of how much money you could collect by decreasing your DSO. And then also based on some national averages on what's paid relative to due date, here is what $1 is worth in relation to days past due. So after seeing a few of these things, it's easy to see why having a good collection system is important. So like I said, pretty short and sweet PowerPoint there. Let's go ahead and hop into GP at this time. Alright, so we got GP pulled open here. Just a few notes before we start drilling into the module itself. The first thing I want to mention here is that collections management is designed to manage a collection team, but it's also a great collections tool in a single collector environment. You're going to notice in the demo today that the navigation and visual queue features are the same as in other GP modules, allowing you to work between those modules with ease. Now, I do have my demonstration set up today in GP 2018. Current functionality is supported on GP 2018 and GP 2016, but we do have code that goes all the way back to GP 2010. Last thing here, I do have a number of shortcuts on my homepage today. That's just for demoing purposes. But just note, when all functionality and windows are installed, they will reside here in this sales area inside of GP. So we'll actually be drilling back to the sales area a couple times throughout today's demonstration. But that being said, let's hop into the demonstration. Now, as I mentioned here, I'm going to break the demo into two different parts today. The first part, we're going to focus on more of your day-to-day collecting activities and centralizing your customer information. And then the second part of today's demo, we're going to transition to the automation process of collections. So starting with the main window here, again, this is really your starting point or command center for the product. I'm going to go ahead and select a customer here and choose Aaron Fitz Electrical. Now, once you select that customer, it's going to populate that customer details and contact information inside the body of the main window here. So we're going to go through these fields here to begin with, and then we're going to touch on a couple of actions that we can do from the main window as well. So first and foremost, we have the customer name here, Aaron Fitz Electrical. We can set up different address IDs for each customer. So basically, if we're trying to collect from a customer at more than one location, this is going to allow us to do that. You can see here we have a customer contact person along with their phone and fax numbers. I can see the last time this customer made a payment and how much that payment was worth. And then we have their payment terms listed directly below that. So we can see Aaron Fitz Electrical here was on our net 30 payment terms. We then have a salesperson and territory ID. Those are standard GP fields, and a lot of the fields inside of this main window here are standard GP fields. So again, we're trying to grab that decentralized collecting information for our customers and centralizing it in one main window. So you're going to hear me reiterate that through a number of fields here. We then have the collection plan ID displayed here. This is actually going to be a part of the automation process of collections. So again, the second part of today's demo. But again, if any of your customers are assigned to one of those automated plans, we are going to display that collection plan inside of the main window here. We then have the year-to-date sales. This number here is really just letting us know how big of a customer we're trying to collect from. Hopping over to the right-hand side of the window here, this is the customer's aging. So again, being pulled right from accounts receivable here, anytime your customer runs that aging routine inside of GP, it's going to update those buckets here as well. Now, the cool thing about this is you can actually drill into each of these aging buckets and display that. That will pull open a collections management transaction inquiry window, showing you the specific invoice or invoices that fall under that specific aging period. We then have the total due amount here. That's going to be the total amount that's been invoiced to your customer, so you can see what they owe you there. You can actually drill into this total due amount, but we're going to touch on this here in just a few minutes. We have a credit limit here for each customer. We have 3 more hyperlinks called unposted sales, orders, and cash. So by hyperlinks, obviously mean you can drill back into these, but they're just going to pull open some core GP windows. So for example, unposted sales here, I could pull open a receivables transaction inquiry window. That is going to be core GP. Or as you saw there, sales SOP document inquiry, also core GP. So again, you drill into any of these hyperlinks here, just going to pull open some similar core GP windows. We then have the total amount outstanding here. That's going to be the total amount that's been invoiced to your customer, as well as unposted sales and unposted orders. Finally here, the credit manager field. This allows your customers to be assigned to a specific credit manager. A large group of customers can also be divided amongst a collection team if necessary. So here's the collection team that I have set up in my demo environment. So that being said, that takes you through the fields inside of the main window here. Now we're going to start touching on some of these actions. So the first action here is creating a new collection note. Anytime you need to create a new note from scratch, you can do so from this window here. You can create unlimited notes per customer. And just to give you guys a better idea of how these notes work, let me pull open one I've created. Now you notice all of the notes for that customer reside at the bottom of the window here. To drill into this, you'll click on the note, click note/comment. And I'm actually going to pull this note off to the right hand side of the window here quickly, and then I'll center this in just a minute. But once your users create these notes, it's going to save the date and the time the user created the note here. It's also going to display the caller ID. That's the actual GP user who created this note. Now you notice we have an address and contact person here. That's just matching back up to the collection main window here and those customer details. And then we can assign this note to a different priority level. So one of the areas we can filter notes based off of the priority level is creating a query. That will be one of the actions we touch on later on in the demo. And then one of the newer features we've added to collections is color coding each of these priority levels. So you notice there's green color next to the note. If we scroll to the bottom of the window here, we can actually get two more colors, this white color and red. So a low priority is going to be displayed as this white color. Normal priority will be displayed as green, and then a high priority displayed as red. So it essentially gives you a visual representation in the priority level of that note without having to drill back into each individual note. Now I'm going to center this note here at this time. At the bottom of the window, this is the note text. So this is all open text fields here. You can type whatever you want this note to read. We'll even see customers copy and paste email conversations in here. So on this particular note, we spoke to Bob Fitz. Bob was telling us he's going to make payment by early next week on a couple of invoices. So the next thing your users want to do then is assign this note to an action. An action is something that you've done, such as a follow-up or a reminder. Maybe it's the status of an invoice. It's been promised for payment, or maybe you're disputing that invoice. So this action ID field here tracks any follow-up actions that have occurred or that need to occur in the future. So if you drill into this lookup here, it's going to show you all of your actions. Now all of these actions and descriptions here completely configurable, so you'll be able to set up whatever actions make sense for your collecting activities or collecting practices. However, a lot of these are very straightforward. We got checks in the mail there. Sent to collections, maybe an invoice gets too old, we send it to a collection agency. Disputing an invoice, so on and so forth. Now each of these action IDs and descriptions here can be categorized with one of three different action types. So the first type we have there is a promise to pay. So your customers made some sort of notion that they're going to submit payment on that invoice. Second category, special circumstance. Anything deemed outside of your normal day-to-day collecting activities would fall under that. Third category being dispute. Maybe you're just going back and forth with that customer disputing what needs to be paid on an invoice. Now, if you don't want to categorize it with one of those three action types there, you can just leave it blank as an action type as none. So again, just to recap here, the action IDs and descriptions, completely configurable. You'll be able to set those up as you feel fit for your collection practices. However, the action types here are predefined and they cannot be changed. And that's actually going to come into play in the total due window once we drill back into that. So on this particular note, it was a promise to pay because Bob said he's going to make payment by early next week. The next thing I want to do here then is assign this to a specific action date. And what this action date does here is it leverages the note as a follow-up task. So we have this task window at the top of the window. We'll be drilling into that here shortly as well. But basically, if this action date goes past due and your customer did not submit payment on that invoice, it's automatically going to launch this note into your task window telling you that you need to follow up with that customer again because they obviously have not submitted payment on those invoices. Now, these notes here are designed as action tasks or follow-up tasks for your past due and future receivables, but realistically, you could set any reminder to yourself in here. So just note, these tasks don't have to be assigned to past due invoices. You could put something in here as simple as call Bob on Monday to confirm payment is being sent. Maybe you change this action here to a first phone call, saying just making sure that that customer's making payment on time. So again, doesn't have to be specifically to your past due and future receivables, although that is the designated purpose of these notes. You can really set any follow-up task from this window. You can also assign these to particular collectors as well. So if you come in and create a note that isn't for a customer you manage, this would allow you to assign it to the appropriate credit manager here. You'll then select the documents or invoices that this note pertains to. So if you drill into this expansion arrow, it's going to pull open your collections management transaction window, showing you all of the open invoices for that particular customer. So all you need to do is select the invoices you want to attach to this note. So you notice here I already have 2 selected. Once you have those invoices selected, it's automatically going to default this action amount here to the total amount of those invoices you just selected. However, you can change this action amount. It is editable. I like to tell my customers, if you're trying to collect from somebody, they're telling you they can only make a partial payment on this, you can change the action amount here to the amount that they said they can pay. So for example, let's say we reach out to Aaron Fitz Electrical and we get a hold of Bob Fitz. Bob comes back and says, hey everyone, I can't pay that $3,000 today. However, I do have $2,000 that I can make as a down payment. You can change that action amount to the amount that Bob said he's going to pay. That way, when that payment comes through, we can apply that amount inside of GP and then follow up on the remaining amount of those invoices with a new collection note. We then have the status listed here. If the note is open, that means it has not been paid or those invoices have not been paid. Once that payment comes through, we can mark it as complete. And then if for any reason we need to cancel a note, or if a note was canceled by one of our collection plans, we do have status reasons for that as well. Now you might be wondering, do we really need to manually complete these notes every time an invoice is being paid? The answer is no. We actually have a feature inside of our task window called Mark Complete. That's going to go through and mark any of the notes and invoices as complete as long as they've been fully applied inside of GP. So I'll go into more detail and show you what that feature looks like in the task window, but just note you're not going to have to manually complete each of these notes every time an invoice is being paid. As long as it's being fully applied inside of GP, collections will recognize that and automatically mark those as complete. Last thing here with the notes is that any time someone tries to edit the note or makes a revision to the note, we do keep a history of that. So this allows you to drill back all the way to the original note. So this is a history trail of each note. You can see the original note here. You can see the revised dates. You can see the revised text. And you'd also be able to determine if it was revised by a different collector. So that is the collection management notes there. Again, one of the central focus features of collections management. Now, before we drill into the rest of these actions here, I want to drill back into this total due window at this time. As I mentioned, it kind of tailors off of those collection notes and the action types. As a reminder here, the total due is going to be the total amount that you've invoiced to your customer, and you can see what they owe you here. Now, from this window, we can actually drill into each of those individual notes, review that from here. You notice we get some nice visual representations from this window as well. So first and foremost, we have this little information icon that's letting us know that there is in fact a note attached to that invoice. You also notice some letters next to these as well. So this P here is going to note that the invoice has been promised for payment. If you look at the bottom down here, we can see the total amount that our customer is promising to pay us. The cool thing about these promise payment notes is that, let's say that action date goes past due, your customer did not submit payment on it, it's automatically going to change this P here into a B, which denotes a broken promise. So then you can easily see which ones did not get paid on time. You also notice some letters down here as well. We have a D that denotes it's in dispute. S denotes special circumstance. Similarly here, you can see the amount disputed, the amount deemed special, and then the remaining amount that your customer owes you that was never categorized. So that's where those action types come into play, and you can inquire on specific groups like that. Alright, so now we're going to touch on the rest of the actions that we can do from the main window here, kicking it off with that task window that I've been talking quite a bit about. So again, this is really going to be your to-do list for the collections module. What we've done is we've helped organize your tasks for prompt collections. And so you can actually sort and filter these tasks by collector. You can come in and focus on your individual tasks, or if you leave that blank, it's going to show you all of your open tasks. So maybe you got a collector who's out on vacation, you want to do the follow-ups for that user. This would allow you to work on other people's tasks. Now you can also set different action dates here as well. So we'll see customers focus in on a specific day, week, month. Really depends on how many tasks you're trying to look at and accomplish from this window. Now you can drill into each of these tasks and review that note/description from here. If you want to, you can manually mark them as complete by hitting this checkbox. You can review all of your completed tasks from here. And then this is where that mark completed button comes into play. So we give you a little description there on how that's going to work. But again, as I previously mentioned, as long as these invoices are being fully applied inside of GP, collections management is going to recognize that. We understand that we have some customers who are processing thousands of invoices a week, and it's just not realistic to be able to manually complete each individual note or invoice. So this feature here will take care of that for you. Again, as long as those payments are being fully applied inside of GP. So that's the collection task window. Again, more of your to-do list for the day. The next action I want to show you here then is sending a one-off email. So let's say we reach out to Aaron Fitz Electrical, we get a hold of Bob Fitz. Bob's requesting those invoices that they owe money on. So from this feature here, we can quickly send a one-off email. If the customer's maintenance card is set up with a contact and email address, I can add that email right to the body of the window. You can also manually type those in as well, copy in, or blind copy anybody too. Now in collections management, you have the ability to set up what we call collection letters. Collection letters can easily be created for printing, faxing, or emailing to customers as we're doing here. And letters is kind of an older term, but if you think of them as message templates or an email template, we get to use them in this window here. So these are all the different letters or email templates that I have set up here in my demo environment. I'm going to show you all how to set these up here in just a few minutes, but just to give you an idea of how this would work, I'm going to go ahead and select one of those templates. Now you can see once you select that, it's going to populate the verbiage right inside the body of the window or that email. It also opens up this transaction window at the bottom here for that particular customer. All we need to do is select the invoices we want to attach to this one-off email. So I'm going to go ahead and select a couple there. Once you have those invoices selected, you're going to click this blue refresh button. At that time, it's going to do a few things for us. Number one, it's going to list out those details right inside the body of the email. Number two, it's going to print those invoices. And then it's also going to attach them as PDF documents. A common question I get here is, okay, well, what if we need to attach something that isn't in GP, whether that be an invoice or just a document we need to send to that customer? We do have this attachments button at the bottom of the window here. This would allow you to browse through your file explorer and attach anything that you need to from here as well. Again, whether that be a Word document, PowerPoint, or just any invoice for that matter. So that is the one-off email window there. Now let me go ahead and show you how to set up those email templates or collection letters at this time. So we're actually going to hop into the sales area to do this. And we're going to scroll down on the cards window. You notice here we have a feature called collection letters. Now when you drill into this here, it's going to pull open the letter maintenance window, which as you can see are completely blank. So you have a lot of freedom when it comes to writing these collection letters or email templates here. However, we do predefine some things for you in this window. Number one, if you want to attach a specific group of invoices to this collection letter, you can definitely do that. Let's do overdue invoices here. You can copy in or blind copy the customer salesperson. And then we give you 5 major functions here to include right inside the body of the email. So let's kick it off here with some customer information. Make that letter sound a little more personal. Maybe we put the customer's name in there. In the body of the email, let's put those invoice details. Now you can see here a lot of different grouping options for the invoices. Obviously, that's the goal of collections management. Collect on your past due and future receivables. So I want to give you a lot of options there. But let's stick with that overdue theme. And then maybe we wrap it up with some collector information here so the customer knows how to get a hold of us. So a very basic example that I provided here, but you really do have a lot of freedom when it comes to creating these. You can always come in and edit them or purely delete them as well. And then for customers who are just getting kickstarted on collections management, we do provide a list of sample data for you as well. This would help you get started with the module, populating some collection actions, collection letters, and collection plans. Just with those as well, you can always go in and edit them, purely delete them. Again, it's just designed to help customers get kickstarted with the collections tool. The last feature that I want to show you then from the main window is creating a collection query. So one of the first problems we've seen with customers doing their collecting is finding the customers that they should be calling first. That's because most customers using GP today collect using an age trial balance where the customers are sorted alphabetically and not by collector. So from this window here, we can build a query with a list of restrictions that allows us to focus in on a specific group of customers that we want to work with. So there's two different query options here, a standard and advanced query. The standard allows me to develop this list of customers based on a number of set restrictions, and these are the restrictions that we set for you. So we can focus in on a specific customer or even a sales territory, a specific credit manager, a balance that a customer owes, or if that balance is greater than their credit limit, different aging periods, due dates, different notes. So here's that priority level we discussed earlier, different action types, and reminder levels. So just to give everyone an idea of how this actually works, I'm going to go ahead and pull open one that I've already created. So the first thing I want to look at here is the restrictions that I have set, because that's going to find the list of customers that I want to work with. So the restrictions here are looking for a group of customers that have an action type equals promise to pay with a balance greater than their credit limit. So once you have those restrictions set, you're going to run that query, click yes, and then at that time it's going to tell you how many records of yours it's searched and how many met the restrictions. So we searched through 104 records here. 4 met the restrictions that we have set, and now I can see their total balance and their overdue balance. So now I'm going to click OK here, everyone, and you're going to watch this window disappear. That's because we're automatically saving that query for you. You notice we went back to the main window now, and we went from viewing all customers to just those who are inside that query or meet the restrictions within that query. So the first thing I can actually do here is hit this customer ID lookup and find those 4 customers who met those restrictions. I can see their balance overdue and their total due balance. And then once you have this query created, you have the option of sending these customers a letter, statement, or their invoices. And I'm going to show you how to do that again from the sales area here. All right, so now this time we're going to scroll down on the transactions area here, and you notice we just built that query. And directly below that, we have the option here called Query Letters. So by default, it's going to pull open the query that we just ran, promise to pay greater than credit limit. I can see those 4 customers there and can review them one more time. And then from this window, we have the option of sending them a letter, statement, or their invoices. And then I can email that from this window here. So I hesitate to call this an automation process because it obviously requires some manual work. However, it also helps eliminate the one-off process when you have a group of customers that really need to be receiving the same thing. So a very easy or basic example I like to give is, let's say you run a query here trying to find all of your customers that have an invoice that's 90 days past due or older. So you run that query and you get a list of 20 customers back. Rather than sending those 20 customers the same one-off email saying, hey, you have an invoice that's now 90 days past due, you can group all 20 of those customers together via a query and then process the same reminder letter, or maybe it's a final letter at that time saying you have invoices that are now 90 days past due. You could build those letters and then process all of them at that time. So this window here is actually going to allow you to build and review those letters from here, so you can actually see what your customers are going to be receiving. You can see here it's going to switch those invoices and change the name for each customer as well. So that is the query letters window. And then hopping back to the main window, there's one more thing I want to show you with the queries here, and that is creating an advanced query. Essentially what we've allowed you to do is use SQL script to query your data. So if you have someone in-house that can write SQL script, or even your GP partner, by all means, we're giving you the freedom to do that. If you want to create a query that really doesn't match up with the restrictions that we've predefined here, again, you can then use SQL script to focus in on a specific group of customers that you want to work with. So SQL script for the advanced queries. And that is going to wrap up the first part of today's demonstration. Again, more of your day-to-day collecting activities and centralizing your customer information. At this time, we're going to transition over to the automation process of collections management. So the first thing when it comes to automating customers is setting them up on a collection plan. What these plans are here is they're a set of steps or workflows that execute actions based off the customer's oldest outstanding invoice. So I have a few different examples for you here today. First example is what I call a good customer plan. So this is more of a relaxed plan, something you would assign to your customers who are notorious for making their payments on time. We then have a high-risk plan here, something you might assign to your previously late-paying customers, following up with them a little more frequently. And then a regular or standard collection plan here. Maybe this is what you use by default to assign to all of your new customers. Now, if you're looking at the steps in any of these plans here, these actions are completely configurable. You can set up whatever actions make sense for each of your steps and plans. Again, they're being executed here based off your customer's oldest outstanding invoice. So in the standard plan here, the first action that we're executing is an action called soon due, and we're sending that 7 days before the invoice is even considered overdue. So a negative amount in the first step. Now I can drill into any of these actions here, review what's happening at that level or step. So let's drill into this soon due level. I can see what's going to happen here. I see it's an invoice that's coming due, and it's a letter that the customer is going to get. So I'm going to drill into this letter ID, and you'll notice here it pulls open that collections management letter maintenance window that we just covered a little bit ago. In this letter here, we're letting them know they have invoices that will soon be considered overdue. The invoices to be attached to this email include all invoices not overdue, and then you can see here we put some invoice details in the body of the email along with some collector information. So that's how you would attach those collection letters to your collection plans and have those automatically sent. Now, this is going to take your customer through the steps in this plan as long as their invoice has not been paid. So 5 days past due, we send a reminder. 14 days, we're scheduled to make a phone call. 30 to 45 days, couple more letters, so on and so forth, coming into 90 days past due, the final action. So the final action, and really any of these actions, is a reminder to your collector internally. You got customer so-and-so now 90 days past due on their final action. What do we do with the customer at that time? So once the customer does reach the last step in a plan, we basically give you two options. That's called at last step here. So number one, maybe just keep repeating that last step, sending the customer an email every 30 days, telling them their account has been put on hold. Or you could just have the plan stop suggesting next action. In that case, you would have to determine manually what you want to do with the invoice for that customer. Maybe you send them to a credit agency at that time. And then the last thing here with the collection plans is setting a minimum amount due, basically setting a floor for each of your collection plans. And if your customer's invoice does not meet or is below this minimum amount, it will not take them through the steps in this plan. So you can change that minimum amount with each plan that you have set up, and you can zero that out if you want to as well. But the question is now, okay, we assign customers to these collection plans. How are we actually executing these actions here? We're going to do that from the plan processing window. So a little bigger window here, so bear with me, but what we're looking at is all of our customers on a collection plan scheduled to get their next actions. So we can sort and filter these in a number of different ways. I can look at all my customers with a balance. I can sort by overdue customers, a collector or query that I've built, or just look at all the customers who have reached the end of their plan. Today, let's do overdue customers. Now we can actually filter this window here in a number of areas. I can filter by the customer name. I can filter by the plan they're assigned to, the last action they received, or the next action they're scheduled to get. So let me just give you a quick idea of what I mean by that. Let's do all overdue customers on a high-risk collection plan. There you can see it's only going to populate those who meet that criteria. I could process that group of customers at that time. But honestly, the ultimate goal of this window is to be able to review all of your customers and the actions they're scheduled to get. So I change this back to all here. Let's say you're running through this list. You go, hey, wait, Pacific Digital, I just spoke with them on the phone yesterday. You can also select customers from here as well. Once you select that customer, it's going to populate the middle of the window here with the actions that are due for payment for that customer. So you can pick and choose which ones you want to include for that customer at this time. Now it also opens up this letter text at the bottom here. So maybe you put in there, hey James, I know we spoke on the phone yesterday. Just wanted to send you those invoices that you owe us. You can modify that quickly and then process just that customer. Or maybe you say to yourself, look, I just spoke with this customer yesterday. I don't need to send them another reminder here, and you can delete them out of the queue at that time. However, when you delete a customer out of here, it removes them temporarily. Now, how temporary am I talking? Let's say we leave this window, go do our normal day-to-day GP activities, come back later that evening, the next day, or following Monday, come back into the plan processing window here, click overdue customers. You're going to notice that Pacific Digital is repopulated here because we do want to make sure that they still get followed up on their next action. Again, ultimate goal here, review all of your customers, review the actions they're scheduled to get, and then process all of those customers. Once you do that, we're going to give you one final summary report here, essentially breaking down each collection plan and the actions that are scheduled to go out. So you can see the 3 plans that we covered here today. I noticed the actions that are happening, but wait, we have a customer here that doesn't have an email address set up in GP. So if that happens with any of your customers, we are going to give you a warning here, letting you know that you need to go back and set them up with an email address in GP. Otherwise, down at the bottom here, you do have the option to send those who do have an email, print those who do not. In that case, you'd have to send the printed ones through the mail or however you wanted to contact your customer at that time. So that is the collection plans. There, just 2 more quick features here to wrap up today's demonstration. First, being this collections management receivable summary inquiry window, this allows your managers or really anybody to review accounts receivable summary information. You can do that by a specific credit manager. You can do that by a query or a parent company and really see how each credit manager is doing in regards to their collecting. Or if you leave it blank like I have right now and click calculate, it's going to do your entire accounts receivables for you. So the top portion here, that's just going to be your standard collection summary information. And then the middle of the window here, that's going to be the summary information on your collection notes. Now we can actually drill into these. I can see how many disputed notes I have, how many promise to pay notes. But really, the 2 most important fields on this window are, first of all, here going to be notes past contact date, saying, hey, we have 26 notes here that are past due. Let's follow up with them right away. And then the most important field on this window, overdue documents not on a note, essentially saying these are past due and we don't know why. So we can drill into this from here, assign these to new collectors for follow-ups, or maybe you use it as your call down list and assign them to new collection notes. The bottom portion here, that's just your customer's aging information. And then the last window here, your days sales outstanding calculator. This allows users to pick a specific time period and calculate the DSO in that time period. You can also calculate DSO per customer, but I'm not going to be doing that here today. Now, once you have those dates set, you can click calculate. It's going to show your sales for that period, average sales per day, your sales that are outstanding, which translates into your days sales outstanding. You can manually add that by clicking this button here, but the way we have collections set up by default, every time you log into the module, we are going to keep track of that DSO for you. So with that being said, that wraps up today's collections management demonstration. First and foremost, just want to thank you all for taking the time out of your day to view collections management. I do appreciate that. pulling open some contact details here now. If you do have any questions after we get off the demo today, certainly don't hesitate to reach out to me. Thanks again, everyone. Have a wonderful day.